Good evening guys, and welcome to today's video where I'm doing a standalone lesson on negative and fractional indices. Right guys, this video was recorded on Wednesday the 21st of July 2021, and in today's video we're looking at negative and fractional indices. So it's appropriate for GCSE 9 to 1, for AQA, EdExcel, OCR, WJEC, IGCSE and all the other exam boards. For GCSE level maths is also appropriate for students doing AS and A2 level maths, and also appropriate for Key Stage 3 students. Right guys, okay, so we want to evaluate the following: 2 to the power of minus 4. Now when I have a negative power word, it's essentially what I call the reciprocal. So it's 1 over 2 to the power of 4. So that minus makes it a flip, okay? So it flips the fraction. So imagine I've got 2 over 1, okay? When I flip that, I get 1 over 2 to the power of 4. So the reciprocal of 2 is 1 over 2, and then the power stays as power of 4. 1 over 2 to the power of 4 means 1 over 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 1 over 16, guys. Okay, so 2 to the power of 4 just means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so that is my answer there. Okay, question number 2, guys. Okay, so 3 to the minus 2. So it's 1 over 3 squared, which is 1 over 3 times 3, which is 1 over 9. Okay, so that's the answer for question 2. Question number 3, guys. 4 to the minus 3 is going to be 1 over 4 cubed, which is 1 over 4 times 4 times 4, which is 1 over 64. 4 times 4 is 16 times 4 again is 64. So the answer is 1 over 64. Okay, so this chapter obviously is important to be happy with your squares and cube numbers and power of 4. So feel free to check out my previous videos on squaring and cube numbers, so make sure that you practice your squaring cube numbers, because these questions would normally appear on a non-calculator paper. Right guys, next one, 1/2 to the minus 5. Well, the reciprocal, so I flip this, I get 2 over 1 all to the power of 5. Well, 2 over 1 is just going to be 2, so it's 2 to the power of 5, which means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which is 32, because 2 to the power of 4 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. Next one, guys, 1/5 to the minus 2. So flipping it, I get 5 over 1. And then I'm going to square my answer. 5 over 1 is just going to be 5. So it's 5 squared, which is 5 times 5, which is 25, guys. Okay, so that's my answer. Next one, 1 over 10 to the power of negative 4. So I flip this, I get 10 over 1 to the power of 4. So 10 to the power of 4 is going to be 10,000. It's 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Well, 10 times 10, 10 is 100, times 10 again is 1,000, times 10 again is going to be 10,000. Okay, so a little clue here: when you have powers of 10, when it's positive 4 here, it's going to be 4 zeros. Power of 5, it'll be 5 zeros, and so on, actually. So 10 to the n is essentially like times in 10 by itself n times. Right guys, okay, so next few now, and then we'll move on to the next part. So 2/3 to the minus 2, so I flip it and then I square it, so 3/2. Okay, 3 over 2. Okay, so flipping 2/3 over squared. Well, squaring the top, I get 9, and squaring the bottom, I get 4. So it's 9 out of 4, guys, or 2 1/4, or 2.25. So anything that is equivalent to 9/4. Okay, so they are all equivalent answers. Okay, so I flipped 2 over 3, I got 3 over 2, and then I squared it. 3 squared over 2 squared. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. 4 over 3 to the minus 3. Well, I flip it, so I get 3/4 cubed. So 3 cubed is 27. 4 cubed is 64. So the answer is 24. It's 27 out of 64, which can't be simplified any further because there are no common factors between these two numbers. Okay, and then lastly, 7/10 to the power of 0. Well, there's a little rule here, guys. Anything to the power of 0 is always 1. Okay, so it's just a little rule, guys. Anything to the power of 0 is always 1. So x to the 0 is always 1. 10 to the 0 is 1. A billion to the power of 0 is 1. Okay, minus 1 to the power of 0 is 1. Any number to the power of 0 is 1, with the exception of 0. Okay, so 0 to the power of 0 is just undefined. Right, guys, next set of questions. Power of a half, so 25 to the power of a half. So power of a half means the second root, okay, or also known as the square root. So it's the square root of 25, actually, okay, so it's the second root of 25, which is 5. So the power of a half just means square root. Okay, so it's the bottom number that is the square root. Okay, and then we will come on to what the top number means in a second. But essentially, if it's just 1 on the top, it doesn't actually change my answer. Okay, 49 to the half, square root of 49. So knowing our square numbers is 7. So the answer is 7. Next one, guys, 8 to the power of a third. Well, power of a third means the cube root. So it's the cube root of 8, guys, which is 2. Okay, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Okay, and then 5 times 5 is 25. And then 7 times 7 is 49. Okay, right, guys, so the next few now are a bit more trickier. Now, 25 to the power of 3 over 2. Now, what I'm going to do is take the square root of 25 first, which is from the first part we got as 5. And then the 3 on the top means that I raise it to the power of that. So it's raising to the power, and then it's the power root here. So the denominator is the root that I take, and then the numerator is the power that I raise it to after I've taken the root, if that makes sense. 5 cubed is 125. Okay, next one, 64 to the power of 2/3. Cube root of 64 first. Okay, so it's a third root of 64, cube root, which is 4, and then I square my answer and I get 16. Okay, 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16. Right, guys, next one. Okay, 81 to the power of 3/4. Well, it's the 4th root of 81. Okay, because it's the bottom number, so 81 to the 3/4. So it's the 4th root first, which is 3. And then I cube my answer, so raise it to the power of 3. Okay, which is 27. 3 cubed means 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, right, guys, last few now, and then we will move on. Okay, 9 to the power of 16 to the power of a half. So it's just the square root of 9/16. Well, the square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 16 is 4, so the answer is just 3/4 or 0.75. Next one is the cube root of this, which is 3 over 2, and then I'm going to raise it to the power of 2 because of that 2 on the top. So it's going to be 9 over 4, guys, or 2 1/4 or 2.25. Next one, the cube root of this, I'm going to get x squared. Okay, I'm going to get over y to the 4, and I'm going to raise this to the power of 4. Okay, so being careful here. So I get x to the 8 over y to the 16. So it's the cube root, okay, of this first, and then raise my answer to the power of 4. Right, guys, next one. What happens when I have a negative indices? So it's a mixture of the first section and the second section. Well, the minus a half just flips, so it's 1 over 25 to the power of a half. Okay, which is 1 over the square root of 25, which is 1 over 5. So the answer for the first one is a fifth. The next one, 100 to the minus a half. Well, 100 to the power of a half is the square root of 100, which is 10. And then I flip it because I've got a negative power. So the answer is going to be 1/10. Next one, guys, 27 to the power minus a third. So I flip it, so I get 1 over 27 to the power of a third, which is 1 over the cube root of 27. Sorry. Which is 1 over 3. Okay. Right, next one, guys. 1 over 16 to the power of minus a half. I flip it, so 16 over 1, which is going to just be 16. So 16 to the power of a half is the square root of 16, which is just 4. Okay, 4 times 4 is 16. Right, next one, 1/9 to the minus 3 over 2. Flipping it, so I get 9 over 1 to the 3 over 2. 9 over 1 is just 9, so it's 9 to the power of 3 over 2. So it's a square root of 9, and then I cube my answer. The square root of 9 is 3, and then when I cube it, I'm going to get 27. Okay. Next one, guys, 4 over 9 to the minus 3 over 2. So flipping that, I get 9 over 4 to the power of 3 over 2, which is the square root of 9, which is 3 over 2, and then I'm going to cube my answer, which is 27 over 8. 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3. 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, which is equal to 8. Okay, I'm not going to do the last few actually, so feel free to have a go at these questions. What I would do for these two is change it to improper fractions and then use the rules from the second part to have a go. Okay, so feel free to have a go at these questions. Okay. Right, next section. So it's looking at equations, which is a bit more harder. So 2 to the power of something is equal to 8. So 2 to the power of 1 is 2. 2 squared is 4. 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So x equals 3. 2 to the x is 1 over 8. Well, so 2 to the 3 is 8. So 2 to the minus 3 is 1 over 8. Okay. Next one, 25 to the power of something is 5. Well, 25 to the power of a half is the square root of 25, which equals 5. So x equals a half here, or 0.5. Next one, 100 to the power of something is 1/10. Well, 100 to the power of a half is the square root of 100, which is 10. So it's going to be minus a half. Okay. Next one, it's a bit more trickier. 4 to the something is 8. Well, 4 can be written as 2 squared. So 2 squared to the x equals 8. Well, 2 to the 2x equals 8, if that makes sense. Okay, now we know that 2 to the x equals 8 means that x is 3. So what I mean here is so if I was to solve this, it would be the square root of 4, which is 2, and then cube my answer. So x would equal 3 over 2, or 1.5. Okay, so I got that because what I said was, I said 2x equals 3. Okay, because 2 to the 2x equals 8 actually. So 2 to the 2x equals 8. So that means that doubling it here means that my answer has to be halved. Okay, so I get 3 over 2. Right, guys, next one, 125 actually, yeah, to the power of 2/3. Okay, so the cube root is 5, and then I square it, and I get 25. So x is 2/3. Okay, the last few now, it's a bit more trickier, so feel free to have a go at these questions. Okay, it is a bit trickier. 16 to the power of, so that's going to be 2 to the 4 to the x, essentially, and then I'm going to have 2 to the minus 3. So I'm going to have x equals 3/4. Okay, because when I compare these powers, 4 times x equals minus 3. Sorry, it's going to be minus 3/4. Sorry. Okay, and then lastly, it's a bit more trickier. So flipping this, I'm going to get 1,000. So it's going to be minus something. Okay, if I take the cube root and then I square my answer, so minus 2/3. Okay. And then this one's a bit more nastier. Okay, I'm not going to do this one actually because I want you to have a go at it. Actually, it's a bit more trickier. But the hint I'm going to give you is write each of these numbers as a power of 2 and then compare your coefficient of powers of 2, if that makes sense, to work out what x is. So you will form an equation for x and then you would solve it. Right guys, okay, so the next section now, so we're looking at reciprocals. The reciprocal of a number in which one in which multiplied with a number gives the answer of 1. So the reciprocal of 5 is 1/5, so 5 times a fifth is 1. The reciprocal of 2/3 is 3/2. 3/2 times 2/3 is 6/6, which is 1. So reciprocal just means, so if it's a number n, it goes to 1/n. And if it's 1/n, then it goes to n, okay? So a half goes to a 2 goes to a half, because remember I've got 2/1. 10 is 10/1, which goes to 1/10. 1/3 when I flip it goes to 3/1, which is just 3. 1/9 goes to 9/1, which is just 9. That goes to 2/3, 2/7, 5/4. So it's just flipping the denominator and the numerator. 10/3. This one's 7/10 as a fraction, so when I flip that, I get 10/7. This one's 15 out of 100, which is a bit more trickier, which when I flip it, I get 100 out of 15. Okay, which can be simplified, but I'm just being a bit lazy and I'm just working out the actual fraction. But both of these can actually be simplified. 3.5 is 7/2. When I flip that, it goes to 2/7. So that as an improper fraction, 3 times 5 is 15, add 2 is 17. 17/3 goes to 3/17. Next one is 4.2, so it's 1/4.2. Okay, for the fraction for that, which gives us some answer. I forgot what the actual answer is, but it's 1/that. 3 squared is 9, so it's going to be 1/9. Next one is going to be, so it's going to be 4/25. When I flip that, I get 25/4. And then lastly, the reciprocal of -1 is just 1/-1, which is just -1. Okay, so the reciprocal for -1 remains unchanged, and similarly for 1, because -1 times -1 is +1, and 1 times +1 is just 1. Okay, so the reciprocal remains unchanged for 1 and -1. And the last point to mention is that there is only one number that has no reciprocal, and that's 0, because I can't do 1 divided by 0. What 1 divided by 0 is just undefined. Right guys, last little bit now, and then we'll finish for the lesson for today. Working with negative indices, simplify a to the 7 over a to the 10. Now when I have powers, okay, same base but different powers, I'm going to subtract it. So a to the 7 minus 10, okay, is a to the -3, which is 1/a cubed. Okay. Next one, a cubed b to the power of 6 over ab to the 10. Well, a cubed over a is going to be a squared. B to the 6 over b to the 10 is going to be 6 minus 10, which is -4. So I've got a squared b to the -4, which is a squared over b to the power of 4. Okay, because 6 take away 10 is -4. Okay. And this slide will prove how we work out our answer. So a to the 7 is a times a times a times a times a times a times a divided by a to the 10, which is a times 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 A. So that was a bit of a mouthful actually. Right, I can start cancelling these. Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Sorry. So what is left here is 1 over A times A times A, which is just 1 over A cubed. Okay, so which obviously proves the answer on the previous slide. Okay, and then this one, okay, just cancel the A's. Okay, so you get A squared there, and then cancel the B's. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you get A squared over B to the power of 4. Okay. That's my answer for that one. Okay. Right, guys, so feel free to have a go at these questions. Okay, so yeah, so simplify your answer, leaving your answer with no negative indices. So what it means is when you get like x minus something, then it's written as 1 over that. Okay, so the first one would be x to the 8 minus 15, which is going to be x to the minus 7, which is 1 over x to the power of 7. Next one, 8 over 20 simplifies to 4/10, which is going to be simplified to 2/5. F to the 12 divided by F to the 15 is F to the minus 3. R to the 4 divided by R is going to be R cubed. So it's going to be 2R cubed over 5F cubed. Okay, so the F to the minus 3 flips, so it's going to be 1 over F cubed, and when I combine it, I get that as my answer. So I hope that actually makes sense. Remember that if you're ever dividing with numbers, so the numbers are treated separately. So 8 divided by 20 is 2/5 or 0.4. Okay, so that is my answer there. Okay, there are some questions for you to have a go at here, so feel free to pause the video and have a go. I'm not going to do the answers for this one actually, but feel free to have a go actually, and you're welcome to comment your answer below if you've got any questions or any queries. Okay, so I hope that actually made sense. Right, and then try these questions, guys, from this section, so feel free to have a go at these questions. Okay. Okay, and then I've got some more questions for you to have a go at, so feel free to try these questions. Okay. The answer here is just going to be x to the n. Okay, x over 1, which is going to be x, so it's going to be x to the n. Okay, so feel free to try that question, okay? And then lastly, I've got some more questions here, so feel free to have a go at that. Okay. And then this is probably the last section, guys, okay? So this is going to be more practice on fraction negative indices, okay? So just to summarize, guys, when I have so when it's a fractional power, the denominator is the root, and the numerator is the power that I raise it to after I work out the root, okay? On there, and on this question, guys, yeah, so a mistake has actually been made on one question here. Okay, so make sure that no calculators are used for these sections. Okay, so comment below which question is the mistake actually, yeah, for this one actually, okay. For this one, okay. So guys, that is the end of the video actually. So it was quite a mouthful actually. Yeah, I hope it made sense. Any questions, any queries, actually, then comment below. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, please, please subscribe to my channel, drop the video a like, also press the bell icon so you don't miss out on further videos, and please spread the word, guys, here, and help me reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of July, actually, so by the end of this month. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, bye for now.